Welcome, friends, to the Steve Weatherford Show, and I am joined by my friend Jim Parker, and I can't wait for you to hear his testimony. And we're set up here in Champions in Christ HQ. We got cameras all over the place. This is the place where we physically train, but in the front of this office is actually somewhere where Jim Parker has spent some time in leadership training. And I want to have a conversation with Jim because I want to accomplish two things, Jim. I want Christ to be magnified, and I want people to see a picture of what's possible. Right. Because I feel like there's a lot of times where you listen to podcasts or watch YouTube videos, and it's very difficult for people that are listening to a podcast or listening to a speaker to relate. I feel like I do the same thing. It's really easy for me to hear a really great business leader or a really great pastor and to be so inspired, but also for the enemy to just, almost while I'm being inspired by the message, tell me where you're not like this person because of this, and you can't do this because of that. And I believe that your testimony really just eliminates a lot of people's excuses, because I believe your story, after people hear it, I watch people as they hear your testimony, and I talk to them afterwards, and I'm like, what's your biggest takeaway from Jim's testimony? And the two things that I hear the most, Jim, is it's relatable, and I feel like if God did it for him, he would do it for me.
Absolutely.
So I know that you don't do podcasts. Yeah. You build businesses and lead people and sell businesses. And so Jim's been a very successful entrepreneur, and came into my life a little bit over a year ago, right?
Right.
A little bit over a year ago. And I brought Jim on here because I'm not as interested in you telling us what happened in fourth grade. I'm really interested in you telling us where you were at 2 or 3 years ago.
Right.
Because I believe that there's a lot of men that have found success as entrepreneurs, but in that success, they've also found depression, they've found addiction, they've found coping mechanisms that help them to deal with the stress and the overwhelm of going out and accruing more success or more things. But then they look over their shoulder, Jim, and they're realizing, I am not the husband that I wanted to be. As a matter of fact, I feel like I'm a bad husband.
Right.
And I also look over the other shoulder, and even though, and I'm relating to you this way, is creating a lot of success, but then looking at the father that you are, the husband that you are, the way that you treat relationships that mean the most to you. I remember when I was going out and getting all of my entrepreneurial success after the NFL, when that wasn't enough. And I realized that, like, my oldest son, he like hated me. And I actually resented him because he told me when he was 4 years old, Dad, when I grow up, I want to be a pro athlete just like you. And the only way I knew how to create a pro athlete was like replicate my childhood for him. And so I'm so thankful that just like your relationship with your son, God has redeemed it. He's restored it. And now my son will tell you, like, I'm his best friend. And it wasn't because I went through a lot of personal development. Yeah, I led myself different, but I believe that Jesus truly changed me, and my son could see the transformation in that. So I know that was kind of a long introduction, but I wanted you to know who you are to me.
Right.
You're a guy that inspires me, but you're also one of my favorite testimonies because I relate so much to the hidden sin that you had that kept you in bondage, but also all of the, I call it the usual suspects, the pleasures, the porn, the gambling, the alcohol, and the drugs. I feel like when men, Viktor Frankl says, when men can't find a true sense of meaning, they'll distract themselves with pleasures of the flesh. So we got about 15 minutes, Jim, and I would love for you to just share with me so other people can hear. Where were you at 2 or 3 years ago? And share with us your pain points. Share with us your overwhelm. I know that you're not ashamed to do this, but share with them just how dirty and disgusting it was. And I want people to connect with that, but then I also want them to have hope. Because the choices that you made, they can begin to make those choices right now as soon as this podcast ends.
Right,
so,
absolutely.
I love you, man.
I love you.
Share with us what God's done in your life.
Oh, man. Just can never forget the moment I met you, and I didn't meet you, I saw you speaking at an event, and it was a sales event. Had nothing to do with God. Like, I didn't go there for anything about God or anything like that, but you came in, you kicked the door down, and you just talked about freedom and having authority in your life. And you talked about two things. It was to know who you are and whose you are. And that was like one thing that really spoke to me, because I didn't know who I was. You know, I was one person to one person in another room, one person to another person in another room. I had no integrity. You know, I just was just kind of getting through life. And but anyways, that event was amazing.
What was the thing to you that stuck out the most? Because it was an Andy Elliott event,
right?
And when you bought your ticket, I wasn't on the website because I wasn't even planning on being in Arizona.
Yeah.
So as a guy, you probably didn't know who I was, didn't know anything about me. And I think I was like the third or the fourth speaker. And everybody that went before me was like, mother F this, and dominate that, and kill this. And and to Jim's point, I started my time when I got the mic, I said, let me pray. And so what was your biggest takeaway from going to like a success conference? And then, you know, you and I have talked, you've said, man, I feel like I encountered God for the first time.
Absolutely. No, I did. Yeah. So it was to know who you are and whose you are. And then you said you don't have an addiction problem, you have an identity problem. And when you said that, like, I just immediately felt that, like, I didn't have an identity. You know, I have integrity really, because, you know, so far in business, every meeting, every organization that you're a part of, it's all transactional.
Right,
you know, it's like, I'm going to go here, I'm going to network. I want you to use my business, I'll use your business. It's who can use who or whatever. And that's just, you know, I'm always thinking of business. And so anyways, man, you just gave me a glimpse of what is a possibility of just walking in authority. And man, after that event, I just couldn't stop looking at your podcasts, your videos. I was like, who is this guy? Like, I want to know more. And man, it's just been an incredible.
So you came home from that event. I'm hearing you say, I felt like I saw a picture of possibility.
Yes.
I'm hearing you say, I feel like I encountered God for the first time. You were listening to a bunch of podcasts. But where were you when you went to that event?
You know, like, I think inside I just felt like a big phony. I felt like, you know, everyone's looking at me, oh, you own a business, you must be doing well.
On paper, what does it say on paper? What was your business? What did you do? Share with people that are listening right now, like, what were some of your financial successes? And then also, what were some of the areas of your life that were imposter? What were some of the areas of your life that were just dysfunction and disorder?
Yeah, I had a plumbing company, San Antonio area, was doing pretty good, and I sold it, made just under $2 million, had horrible, you know, I was just, you know, living for me. You know, I thought that I was doing all this in order to leave a legacy to my children and for my family, but I was really just living life for myself. So anyways, I just, going through that, just kind of lost, spending money, just incredibly stupid.
What were some of your vices?
Gambling. Like, I would go to Vegas every month. It's funny because, like, back then I was bragging about these things, and these are not things to brag about. You know, going gambling, going drinking in Vegas. It's just stupid. It was dumb. You know, looking back, the people that I had around me were encouraging these things, and I realized now that, you know, these are not people I need in my life, that I want in my life. But yeah, I didn't know that until, you know, I went and through your program and really, you know, dove into your ministry.
What was it when you say dove into your ministry? What was the next thing that you did? So you left Arizona, where Andy Elliott's event was at.
Yeah.
Come back to Dallas. I'm hearing you say, I listened to some podcasts. And the next time I remember seeing you, because I didn't get a chance to meet you in Arizona, first time I met you, I believe was in men's prayer.
Right.
I host a men's prayer in 2 different locations in Dallas, Fort Worth. And at the time I was only hosting one, and it was in Frisco at Church 1132. And the first time I met you, you stood up in the circle, and just like what you shared with the room was really, really powerful. So How did you get to men's prayer? Did you see something on social media?
Yeah, so I had a drive I had a 5-hour drive. So I flew into Dallas and I had to drive to San Antonio. And the whole time I'm just watching your videos. I'm on YouTube. I am just like, I wanted to know more. I was like, a lot of stuff that you have out there is just how to be better in your marriage, how to be a better father. So I'm like watching all these videos and I pull up to my house and I sent you a message on Instagram and I was just like, Steve, I just want to thank you so much. That was just an amazing event in Arizona, and you invited me to men's prayer in Dallas. So I go to your men's prayer.
And this is like it was just a couple of days later, right?
Yeah, I think it was like the following week.
Like
Yeah,
a week
absolutely.
later.
Yeah, it was a week later. So I go to your home where you're having men's prayer, and I walk in, and it's all these like buff dudes, and I'm like, this is not me. The enemy definitely wants you to think to yourself, oh, you're not. This isn't you. So I immediately walk in. I see all these guys, and it's 5:30 in the morning on a Tuesday, and I'm just like, what did I get myself into? And
Right.
They had like worship music that I never heard. I never listened to worship music. So you guys started singing songs, and I'm like, man, I don't know the. It was just uncomfortable all the way around. I didn't know prayer.
Let me interrupt. Had you given your life to Jesus before the Andy Elliott event?
I had. I'd been going to church, but I would always sit in the back.
Okay.
Like now, whenever I go to church, I'll walk in with my son, and I'm like, this is our Father's house. We go to the front.
Yeah, different now.
Totally different. But back then, I would go sit in the very back, and I would just want to listen to the message, and it was just Sunday only kind of thing.
Sure. Okay, so I interrupted you, and you're telling me about the first time you came over to men's prayer.
Oh, yeah.
I'm hearing you say, I walked in, and I felt like I don't belong in this room based upon what everybody looks like. I'm also hearing you say, I've never been to a prayer meeting before.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm hearing you say, I'm doing a lot of things that I've never done before, and I'm experiencing things I've never experienced before.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, continue.
Yeah, absolutely, because I was at a place where nothing was going good. Business wasn't going good. Marriage wasn't going good. Had no relationship with my sons. Nothing was going good, and I knew something had to change.
Yeah.
If I didn't change something, all the balls were going to drop. I knew that.
What were you like praying, or maybe not praying? What were you believing for buying $1,000 ticket at the Andy Elliott event was gonna like? What were you gonna learn or get from that you thought was gonna change things? Or maybe what was it about Andy Elliott that attracted you?
So it was really strange. I mean, that's where I just know it was like God put me in that room for a reason. I know it because I knew nothing about Andy Elliott. The manager I had at the time was not like a sales savvy kind of guy, but he wanted to go to this event, and he was just like, we gotta go. And he had heard it on another podcast that's tailored more towards the trades. And so we go, and I'm like, man, I don't want to sit in the back. I want to sit up front. So I pay a little extra, and we go up to the front, and like none of it really made sense, honestly. But I went there, like I was going to learn something about sales, or how to go back and take information from my team to this is what you say to get the sale, or how to close it. And you go there, and it's really like powerful. Like they have the music going, the Lamborghinis out front. Like it's really powerful. And
they're like dangling in front of you what's possible.
Yeah, absolutely,
right?
Absolutely. So I went with that in mind. But man, you came in and kicked the door down. I mean,
that was an iconic weekend for, like, you didn't realize it, but that was like a landmark weekend for our ministry, because that was the first time that I'd ever seen the entire room, including like the camera. I mean, the cameraman was like tears coming down his face, raising his hand to give his life to Jesus. It was for me personally, it was a profound moment, and I feel like God put Andy in my life for a reason. So him and I have become like friends since then. I've gone back 2 other times. Both times that we went over 500 people came to Christ each time. So that friendship that I've created with Andy is the reason that you and I are friends, and thousands of other people have a relationship, not a religion. Because like when I went in there and shared with you, like I didn't give the Joel Osteen gospel, like, well, if you feel bad about your mistakes and you want to belong to God, raise your hand. No, I went in, and I believe that that's what like connected with you, because I didn't tell Super Bowl stories.
Right.
Talked about like the gross and nasty part of who I was that I hated that God redeemed. So what were the things about you that you hated whenever you saw me up there on that stage? And you were obviously connecting with parts of my story.
Like
and
all
there's
of it.
a lot of my story that was identifying things that I was carrying around, right, that were did to me, or things that I did that I hated. And it forced me to carry around so much shame and guilt and regret. And that's one of the things that, Jim, I'm so proud to see happen in your life, is that like you don't carry shame and you don't carry guilt around at all. Like I feel like God's made an exchange with you that you carry around like joy and certainty. I know you want to grow in both of those things, but those are two things that I feel like you have in large measure that you had none of when I first met you.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I was trying to, it's just a world of chaos, just trying to keep it all together, and I put a lot of pressure on myself, but that's the thing. You can't do it by yourself. You need God in your life. There's no other way. It's just, but yeah, just the event itself, I was just living a life of chaos. You were talking about, just alcohol and drinking, and, I would drink because we're having a bad day at work, or I would drink because it's a good day at work. Oh, we got a bunch of sales. Let's go drink, and
or we got no sales.
Yeah, we got no sales. Let's go drink.
Yeah.
And it would just intensify the problems, and every day you wake up just like trying to keep it together. And it's just, when you're trying to do it on your own, you're just white knuckling life. It's just, it doesn't work.
So I'm hearing you say, I hated myself by creating the own mess that I'm drowning in.
Oh yeah.
I hated myself by justifying my dysfunction. And I hated myself because I had no true purpose or calling in life.
Oh, big time. Yeah.
What was it that you experienced at men's prayer that drew you in even closer? Because Jim, just to share with everybody, Jim heard testimony at Andy Elliott's, and from there he went to podcasts. From podcasts he went to men's prayer. From men's prayer you went to a launching pad leadership experience in my house. And then from there you went to 12 weeks of like intense leadership coaching with me, which led you into a community and tribe of men that you're a powerful, like loved part of. So what did you experience at men's prayer that led you to ask questions? What more do you guys do that I can experience?
Yeah, so I went to the men's prayer. It's just a lot of men that I just saw a lot of confidence. I remember talking to Justin Hobbs, and I was like, man, one day I want to be like you.
Yeah.
And then he just had this confidence about himself. He looked like, he was on the right path. And I just wanted that life of integrity.
So you saw a group with men in it that had fruit in their life that you desired.
Right. And I knew the only way to get it is to keep coming back to prayer. As uncomfortable as it was.
Had you ever prayed out loud over people? Never laid hands?
No.
Yeah.
No. And now I get asked all the time, like at our Thanksgiving dinner, with our family, they're like, Jim, will you say the prayer? So yeah, it's been life-changing.
You're the default holy man in the room now. Jim went from drugs, alcohol, and degeneracy and gambling to being the holy man in the room. I feel like God's done the same thing for me. I've really only been saved for 6 years and 14 days, and I've become like a lot of men's like panic call. Like when their dad dies, I'm the first one they call. Whenever they have like a blow up fight with their wife, I'm the one that I'm like, at first I was like, why are you calling me? Like, well, you're the only guy I can trust.
Right.
And so I believe that that's been a powerful part of men's prayer. Is it's a place where men can share where they're really at, and none of the other men in the room are going to judge or try to compete with them.
Big time.
And so what you've been able to do is get practice, not just in praying, but get practice in being who God really created you to be. Meaning, like in my imperfections, in my shortcomings, in my weaknesses, this is who I am. And men have said, that's awesome. Hey, Jim Parker, we like you, man. So I'm hearing you say the consistency of coming back and practicing that. And then you came to the launching pad. What was the What was the thing that got you over the hump to say, okay, I'm going to do more than just pray with these guys? Because we got a lot of guys here locally that like all they do, like Launching Pad is literally hosted here in Dallas.
Right.
And I've invited them, but they're just satisfied maybe just going to prayer. What was it that got you from men's prayer into the fire of the Launching Pad?
They got me into the Launching Pad. I didn't really know what to expect in Launching Pad. I didn't know what it was about.
So it was just the fruit of the men in the room. You're like, I want what they have.
Yeah.
And these men are saying, go here.
I mean, it was really like, if you tell me to do something, I'm going to do what you say, because you've already been through it and I want what you have. I'll never have the 20-inch biceps, or I don't know, the 23.
Never say never.
I know, but I wanted that freedom and I wanted that authority in my walk. I wanted to have a relationship with God. So if you said, do these things, I want to do those things, because I want a relationship with my wife, a better relationship with my wife. I want a better relationship with my kids. I want to run my business, properly. So
let me pause. This would be an encouragement for all of the men who lead men that are listening to this podcast. What I'm hearing Jim say, not the perfection that Steve showed. No, it was the vulnerability and the excellence. And I believe that excellence and joy are two of the most attractive things that an evangelist, somebody who wants to grow the kingdom of God. A lot of men don't consider themselves an evangelist, but we all should be evangelists. It's part of our assignment, a part of our commission. If you want to be an effective evangelist, if you want to be effective at growing the kingdom of God, create excellence and wear joy. I believe that that's what I'm hearing you say. You afforded me trust and credibility based upon the vulnerability and the excellence that my life produced or showcased. Because I know you've been around long enough to see me not be perfect and for me to make mistakes. What was it that you experienced at the Launching Pad that took it? Would you say before the Launching Pad you were on fire?
No, I don't think I was on fire.
Were you on purpose? What did men's prayer do for you? And then I want you to tell me, what did Launching Pad do for you?
So I think in a good way, it was all very quick, like very fast. So it was like a month of prayer. So Tuesday mornings, 5:30. For like about a month, and then right into the launch pad and into Kingdom Man Accelerator. So it all went pretty fast. So I just was kind of doing the steps,
like you didn't waste
week
much
after
time.
week. Yeah, I just wanted to get right into it. So the launch pad, when we did the lunges, like we did about 1,000 lunges, and it showed me like how out of shape I was. I mean, I was like,
so you felt exposed.
Oh, man, that's good. Yeah, I was exposed.
That's what we want to do. Those are like, we have three phases during the Launching Pad. And during those three phases, I want you to have self-awareness. In order for you to have self-awareness, you got to get exposed.
So. And then I'm doing the lunges and I can't do them. I mean, I was like, I'm going to give up about 10 times, but nobody would let me give up. And then next thing I know, I'm like, I cannot walk. Like, I'm on the ground. I'm like, I'm done. And Cade York comes over and picks me up, and I'm like, I have an NFL football player helping me. I'm like, I got to do this. So for him and for the other person that helped me, I just powered through, and we got through it. And but yeah, definitely exposed on that. And then the cold plunge, doing the hard things, things that you don't want to do. That you can get through it. And so did the cold plunge. The prayer and worship was very strong. The Waymaker song, like I still to this day play it, and I've played like a million times in my house. So it's just like our fight song for Kingdom Man Accelerator Class 02. So it was really good.
So I'm hearing you say before Launching Pad, I still had strongholds.
Yeah.
I'm hearing you say I still had addictions. I'm hearing you say I was still, maybe I'm not hearing, this is more of a question. Were you failing as a husband and as a father at this time?
Yes.
Okay, I'm hearing you say that I wasn't a failure, but I was currently failing at leading my home and leading my son. And I'm also, I know this, I'm not hearing you say, but you were also in an active gambling addiction that wasn't like $1,000 here. No, we're talking 20 grand a weekend.
Yeah, it was a complete disaster. But the thing was, I didn't know how to turn this around. Like I had gotten so far in that I didn't know how to really turn it around. And that's,
isn't it crazy that you were the owner and operator, and still are, of a multi and successful. You were good at it.
Yeah.
Even carrying around all the burdens that you were carrying around and being involved in all of the just dysfunction that you were involved in. I won't share the number, but Jim sent me a screenshot of his bank account last year and said, this is where it was in my dysfunction of last year, and 1 year later, I can't believe this.
Right.
Man, thank you so much. So, thanks for encouraging me with that screenshot. And I know it's because, not because you personally developed yourself or because you started leading yourself different. You got your eyes fixed on the prize, and you began to seek first the kingdom. You began to seek first his kingdom and his righteousness. And now all of these things are being added unto you. Let me ask you this. If I'm hearing you say that I was failing as a husband and failing as a father, what did you do in between the moment of starting Launching Pad and where you're at right now? Like, what are the things that you changed? Because I've been with your wife and she shared with me, like, you are not failing as a husband. You are not failing as a father. And you sent me a screenshot of your bank account. So it seems like there's not just some momentum. It seems like you're putting wins on the board right now. So what did you need? How did you need to restore order? And what were the changes that you made so the people that are watching or listening right now can say, hey, man, I might feel like I'm failing in my fitness, or maybe they're failing in their finances and they're crushing it as a husband, but they're realizing, man, there's an area of my life that's in default and I need to put some design to it. So what were the changes that you made, Jim, that people can make at home?
Yeah, I think the Kingdom Man Accelerator program that you have is like there's nothing like it that I've even seen or could. I'm just so lucky to have been through it, because it taught me, like how to have daily habits and how to, the daily habits, and it just really helped me rebuild relationships with like my children, my wife. I was part of an entrepreneur organization where every month we would talk about like, what do we want to work on? What are we working on? Or what do we wish we would have worked on? Or and mine was always like, I wish I had a better relationship with my sons. And I would say the same thing month after month after month. No one teaches you how to do those things. Anything. Yeah, like I didn't know. Obviously, I didn't know how to do it, or I would have done it. So the KMA teaches you how to, to turn it around.
How important was not just teaching you how to turn it around? How important was it that you had accountability and like guaranteed implementation? Because I believe, just like you, I have literally spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in the last 6 years in coaching, development, and mentorship consulting. And one of the things that I have learned in that is I'm not learning that much, but the people that are mentoring me, I'm accountable to them, and so I always do it.
Right.
And I think that's the powerful part of mentorship, is the accountability that comes with it, because you can say somebody's a mentor by reading their book or listening to their podcast, but I think there's a difference between learning from someone as a mentor and then being submitted to someone's process as a mentor.
Right.
And that's where I've had the greatest growth, wasn't from reading people's books, is by submitting to their process.
Yeah, I know the biggest thing was accountability. You team us up with other men that are kind of going through the same things. And just looking back at those early conversations, we'd be on a prayer call like every Friday, and we would say the same things. Like, oh, our marriage is this, our wife's this, this ain't gonna work out. We were saying the same things week after week. But we were doing the work. And then over time, all of our relationships started getting better. Our wives started wanting to have a relationship with God. Our kids were going to church with us, but it takes time. And like one thing that you had talked about that, your wife didn't just, like, you didn't go through the first coaching program you went through and your wife's like, oh, okay, Steve's this new man. Our wives did the same thing. They're like, okay, when's this gonna be over? When's he gonna do the new thing? But we all stuck to the program. We stuck together as friends. You have like a Barnabas program where you team us up with someone, and Ross, my Barnabas, is like I mean, he's a fire chief. He's like, we're doing this and we're a brotherhood. And, so he was really watching out after me.
Jim Parker's Barnabas partner was a Canadian fireman. And this guy, Ross, is relentless. He would be one of the best accountability partners.
Yeah.
He's been a really great coach inside of this as well. And you have as well, Jim. I'm hearing you say, Jim, that going through the 12 weeks, the Kingdom Man Accelerator, the accountability and the standards and the habits. I'm hearing Jim say, man, it was the habits that I started, but it was the accountability of those habits.
Right.
And I'm hearing you say that it was a process. 4 things that we want to accomplish with every man that goes through that 86 days is for them to get clear on their mission, their vision, their values, and their standards.
Right.
Because in order for a man to go from amateur to pro, he has to make decisions based upon his commitments and not his feelings. That's something that I've shared with you a million times. But one of the things that Jim Parker and so many men, myself included, before I stepped into leadership coaching and mentorship, before I paid somebody to teach me how to live life to be significant, not just successful, I had to get clear on what's my mission? Like, what does God want me to accomplish with my life? What's my vision? What is this? What's my why? What's my how? And what's my when? And I believe that once Jim got really clear on what his mission, what his vision, and what his family values are, I believe his standards are something that are not as difficult to live by, because you know why you're sacrificing. And most men are sacrificing for the sake of more things or more comfort. And when Jim got more comfort and he got more success, what I'm hearing you say is that I sabotaged myself with my success.
Big time.
What would your message to men, in closing, what would your message to men be? And then after you share your final word, I've got an exciting announcement and an opportunity for every man that's hearing my voice right now. I want to spend 3 days with you, and the only thing that it's going to cost you is your time. What would your final words to these men be?
It's just, you can't do it alone. I think I was trying to do it all by myself as far as just life. And once I got in this organization, this ministry, and around these men who wanted nothing from me but to know that I was better today than I was yesterday, that once I had this group of friends and family of choice, is what that anything is possible. I am doing so many things to glorify God, and in Bible studies here in Dallas and in San Antonio, just leading my family right. But it all started with this organization, this ministry, just really taking me in and just showing me a new way of life. And I just am forever grateful. My family's forever grateful. Just can't thank you guys enough.
Yeah, love you, man. What I'm hearing Jim Parker say is things really began to change when I got around men that valued growth more than comfort.
Yeah.
That would be the first thing that I'm hearing you say. The second thing that I'm hearing you say is when I got around those men, what I thought was possible for me expanded.
Oh, big time.
And then the third thing that I'm hearing you say is God gives you a family of origin and you're born into it. But when you become a man and you get clear on what you value, that gives you what you need to choose a family of choice.
Right.
Powerful.
Yeah, perfect.
Dude, you did such a great job. When I called Jim, I texted him yesterday. I go, Jim, I'm doing an online challenge and I'm doing it for free. And I want to put podcasts out leading up to this event that are relatable testimonies that show men what's possible. Like what's possible when you get around other men that don't want anything from you, but want to see the kingdom of God grow because you're a part of it.
Right.
And I believe that's what Jim has done with his life over this last year of being very intentional and very strategic. I know you haven't been perfect, but I know that what God has done in you has expanded what your wife thinks and what your son thinks is possible through Christ Jesus. And one thing that Jim mentioned was a story that I share about, man, when I went through the very same freedom process that I brought Jim through, and I'm experiencing all of this breakthrough in my identity, and now I finally know who I am, not based upon what I do or what I've achieved, but based upon who God says I am. And I'm experiencing all of this breakthrough, but my wife's not drinking the Kool-Aid yet.
Right.
It was 2.5 years of me being that man before I received the Father's Day card from my wife that says, thank you for proving to me that transformation through Jesus is real.
Yes.
When you receive something like that right there is way more important to me than any Super Bowl Lombardi trophy.
Right.
That to me is the ultimate trophy, because that to me is a reminder of what God did in me. And that's why I love giving my testimony, because I believe it increases the faith of people that hear it. But every time I share my testimony, it increases my faith because I'm reminded of what God did for me.
Absolutely.
So Jim, thank you for being great at giving your testimony, because I know that you love to give God all of the glory. And for everybody that's watching this right now, I want you to mark your calendar, April 21, 22, 23. I'm getting together my friends, Andy Elliott, John Gordon, and Ryan Pineda. I'm putting on a virtual event for 90 minutes, 3 days in a row. It's called Become the CEO of Your Life. If you've resonated with Jim's story, that means that you've experienced some success in some areas, but also that you're realizing that part of your leadership in all areas is affecting you, that it's affecting your marriage, that it's affecting your fitness, that it's affecting your finances. And so I want you to become the CEO of every area of your life. I don't want you to just be an either or man. I want you to be a both and. No more either or. It's no more choosing, hey man, I want to make $2 million this year or be a great husband. I want to give you the tools, and I want to bring you through some exercises that are going to help you to get clear on your mission, your vision, and your values. It's going to help you to raise your standard. I'm going to do my best in 90 minutes and 3 days in a row to take you through everything that I took Jim through. I took him through it in 12 weeks, and I want to take you through it in 4.5 hours. I'm going to pour everything that I have into this. So mark your calendars, April 21, 22, 23, high noon Central Standard Times. You're going to need to register beforehand, because I'm running ads, I'm sending emails, I'm sending text messages. Everybody that I know that has a pair of balls between their legs, I want them to be there. I want them to experience more freedom, more power, and more authority, just like Jim Parker is, and just like I am. I'm a beneficiary of great mentorship, and I want to pour that into you. That's why I had Jim on here, so God could get the glory, and then you can get on the Become the CEO of Your Life virtual challenge, and you can break through so other men and other families can experience the goodness of God just like we have. We'll see you there.